Hi, I'm Sherry.
I'm Brian.
And we have some Balloon Fiesta tips for you today. So Balloon Fiesta is literally next week as of the recording of this video. We have been actually a few times, so we thought it might be nice for us to give you guys some tips of what we have learned by actually going a number of times, mistakes we've seen other people make, mistakes we have made ourselves. We've actually done it a couple ways. We've stayed in town and we've driven up there.
Make mistakes.
Oh, we don't make mistakes. We've actually done it a couple ways. We've stayed in town and then driven up there, and we have also stayed in the RV lot at least once. So we'll give you a little bit of information about both of those ways, how to get there, what you're going to encounter when you're actually on the ground with, you know, like 400,000 other groggy people who also got up at 4 in the morning.
The big thing is you need to plan for multiple days. I'm going to cheat because we got a bunch of stuff here. But the reason is the balloons may not lift off every day. It's an unfortunate reality. The winds can get too strong and they just blow the balloons into each other and it becomes a safety hazard. There's just too many balloons for that. So it goes on from weekend to weekend. I would say plan to be on one set of weekends, but then also a few days during the week as well. I think that at least has worked for us in the past. So for the weather thing, if the weather's unsafe, they have this like flagging system. And so in the sort of the center where all the food and souvenirs and like sort of the main walkway, the field is off to one side. As you walk along there, there's a literal pole with a flag. And so red means it's canceled, like nothing's going to happen. Yellow means let's wait and see. And then green means go. And even if it says yellow, don't panic. Things may calm down enough for them to change it like right before, because they have to make the decision like literally right before the balloons are going to take off, because that's when it matters, right? There's more events on the weekends. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say most of the events, but there's certainly more things to do on the weekends. That's part of the reason why I said at the beginning, make sure you have a weekend, either the front weekend or the back weekend, to kind of choose. If you're lucky enough to be able to spend an entire week and both weekends, that's great, right? Mass Ascension and Nighttime Glow. That's what it was, our weekend only activities. But, during the weekdays, you can explore Albuquerque, and during the middle of the day, right, you can explore Albuquerque, because it's sort of like hurry up and wait first thing in the morning, and then hurry up and wait towards the end of the day. But in the middle of the day, there's not as many activities.
Right. There are some things. There's like chainsaw competitions. And like if you go to the website, they'll have the whole schedule. You can pull it up either day by day or a whole PDF to see what sorts of things you might be interested in. But let's be honest, most people are here for the balloons.
Yeah. And I guess I mentioned the field earlier, right? So you're allowed to be on the field. They do typically sort of like quarantine off little sections around specific balloons. But actually, most of the balloons, you just see the balloon handlers. These are folks with ropes holding onto the balloons as they're filling them up. They're just asking you to stay out of the way. But it does mean as you're walking along the field, if you're staring down at your phone, you will, probably run into somebody first. But more importantly, you might start walking across a balloon. Generally, people are going to interrupt you before you do that. But just kind of be aware of that. One of the kind of the cool things is you can even help crew. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to fly. Let's be clear. You can pay, at least on the weekends. I don't know about the weekdays. You can pay on the weekends for balloon rides. So that is definitely something you can do. It's a great time to do it. But you will be with a bunch of other folks that are doing this. It won't be as private if you did it in the middle of the year. So what does crewing mean? Crewing basically is, I alluded to it a moment ago, holding on to the ropes and basically preventing the balloon from flying off. But more importantly, preventing the balloon from like falling over. That's effectively
uncontrolled falling over.
Yeah. Like if they're deflating.
Yeah.
Is it deflating?
I don't know. We're not balloonists. Yeah. We just go and look at the pretty balloons.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so like you're basically trying to be safe with this because you don't want it falling over onto people. hitting when they're really got a bunch of them all right next to each other, they're literally bouncing between other balloons. So you're just trying to keep things from getting keeping things from getting tangled rather.
So another really, really important thing talking about when you're out on the field are the zebras, which sounds like something you're like, what are you talking about? Why are there zebras at Balloon Fiesta? It's actually what we call, essentially, we jokingly call them the referees, but it's the folks who are out there trying to provide safety, both for the balloons, the balloonists, and for the people who are all out there to watch the balloons. So this Balloon Fiesta is quite unique in that, like Brian said, you can actually be out on the field. But what that means is there are also a ton of folks out there responsible for safety. So if you're walking around, even if you're paying a lot of attention, if all of a sudden you start hearing whistles, that's really important. What that means is someone is in the way of something, and either they are in danger or they are about to create danger for someone else. So here's an example that we've actually seen, right? It was kind of an iffy weather day. They told the balloonist, you can go up if you choose to, right? It's always up to the pilot's discretion, but they were just real like, watch out today. The winds, I'll say, like at balloon height, were being a little weird. And so a couple balloons would take off just a little bit and then start rapidly coming across the field low enough that they could hit people. So the zebras are out there with their whistles saying like, get out of the way, get out of the way. We don't want a person to get hit. So that's a really long way of saying, like, if you hear the whistles, look around, figure out what's going on, make sure you're not the problem. And if you are, just get out of the way, right? That's 90% of it is like, get out of the way and go somewhere else is what they want you to do.
And the thing you're getting out of the way of could be a balloon coming down, coming across. So like you've got to be very aware of your surroundings and figure out like what's the direction that you need to go to get out of the way.
Yeah, you absolutely don't want to end your Balloon Fiesta on the first day because you got conked in the head by a balloon. Basket, I should say. Yes. All right, so these events start horribly, or well, in my opinion, horribly early. I don't like to get up early.
We're not morning people.
So really, like the first event starts at 5:45 in the morning. So that means a few things. One, most people have not had a lot of sleep, but also now literally hundreds of thousands of people are descending upon the park that is hugely operated by volunteers, right? So there are staff out there that are paid staff, but there's just an enormous number of volunteers. So something to just really be cognizant of, and I'm sure the folks watching this doing their research are not the problem, but some people are kind of grumpy in the morning and the lines get long, people are close together, sometimes it's really cold, and they're just mean to the volunteers. So don't be mean to the volunteers. They got up way earlier than any of you folks, any of us, trying to get onto the field. So just be super nice to them while they're trying to do their job and get everyone through in an orderly manner so that they can go enjoy the lovely mass ascension first thing in the morning. I mentioned literally hundreds of thousands of people trying to get to the field. Traffic is bad. If you do not stay in one of the RV lots that you can either walk to the field from or like a super close hotel, expect literally hours of traffic backup to get there.
It's the worst part.
It is the worst part.
Yeah.
So the very first time I went to Balloon Fiesta, a friend invited me, said, hey, let's go. We saw that the first event was around 6 a.m. and we said, when do we need to leave? We decided 4 a.m. So we were leaving her house at 4 a.m. We actually got there and were like one of, I'll say like the first few hundred folks in that parking area. So number one, we got to park close. Number two, we were there before most of the traffic. And then all the shops were open that early. And so we went to get like warm coffee because it was quite cold that year and then wait on the balloons to do their thing. If you wait a lot later than that, and honestly, it's grown since that first time I went and like, got up at 4 a.m. or left at 4 a.m. Like really traffic is serious. There are park and ride options. The buses have some more optimized routes, so they're not necessarily stuck in the same traffic as everyone else. The other thing I want to mention is this video is being filmed in 2025. There is very serious construction happening on I-25 North right now, which is one of the most important roads used to get to the Balloon Fiesta Park. So you might want to build in even a little extra time this year if you're driving to the park than you might in previous years.
Well, and I would just add on the construction note specifically, Albuquerque has two main interstates, and that's I-40 that goes east to west across the city, and then I-25 that goes sort of north to south across the city. So the construction is literally as you're getting off from I-40 onto I-25 north from either direction. It starts right there and then goes, I don't know, several roads up And so like if you're staying anywhere that you're taking 40 to get onto the interstate, you're going to be stuck in that. If you've gotten lucky and you've booked a hotel that's northern, or like towards the north side of Albuquerque, which is where the Balloon Fiesta Park is, then there may still be construction, but it won't be that construction.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. Okay, so traffic is bad. Prepare for that. If you're staying somewhere else in Albuquerque, plan to leave very, very early so you don't miss the mass ascension because you were sitting on the interstate trying to get into a parking lot. So mention this video is for 2025. Checking out the weather forecast into the week of Balloon Fiesta, it does look like there might be a chance of rain. Albuquerque has gotten more rain later in the season than usual. If you look at sort of the historical rain forecast for that region, usually their rain is just earlier in the season than it's been happening this year. So a couple reasons I mentioned that. One, bring some rain gear, right? You don't want to be at the field freezing to death because it's cold and rainy. Two, consider others when you choose your rain gear, right? So if you choose a raincoat with a hood, awesome, fantastic. Maybe even some rain pants. We'll talk about this later, but you can bring chairs, right? Chairs to the field. And so if you're sitting and only your top half is rainproof, you're going to have a bad time. But two, there are lots of claims that this is the most photographed event in the world. If you're walking around with your giant 4-person umbrella, you're just not being considerate to others. So please, whatever you choose for your rain gear or your warmth gear or whatever gear you have, maybe even consider your sun hat, make it something that's not going to block the view of others and something that's not going to take up a lot of extra space because there are a ton of people in a very small space. We don't want to impact everyone else.
It's not a small space.
That's true.
But the folks tend to congregate, and there is just an absolute ton of folks, right? Like, so if you're walking around with an umbrella, you're liable to hit somebody with it that's not paying attention or that's photographing them as well. It's just, I would suggest to go without it. That's just me.
So speaking of the space, I said small space and you corrected me. That's because the actual park where the balloons set up and take off from is 86 acres. You can pull it up on Google Maps, a little top-down view. Like, it is not messing around size space because there are a lot of balloons that need to fit in that space, right? So a couple recommendations. One, especially if you're going to go out on the field and walk around the balloons, wear comfortable shoes. This is not a place for high heels. This is not a place for shoes that might slip off if you step in a sandy area, right? We have seen the police on horseback, right? You don't really step in horse poop in your flip-flops. There are a lot of other people. You don't get your toes stomped on. I would say treat it as like a chill concert, right? There's going to be a lot of people. They're going to be close to each other. Instead of standing all night at a concert, you're going to be walking around just a huge area so you can see all the cool food, the tasty snacks, the balloons themselves. Again, the area is huge. Wear comfortable shoes. That is like my number one recommendation.
And other than walking to and from the event and to the field, if you choose to go over there, and between food vendors, you could actually enjoy the event in like a single location. I don't personally suggest it. If you're able, please like explore the facility. I strongly encourage you. But I would say that like if you're worried, like I don't know, like I don't know. Some days I have bad knees, but for the most part, like if you're worried about that, like I don't know how I'm going to do. Once you get there, you can pull up a seat and just relax and take everything in. Find yourself a nice spot. But I think like I said, if you're able, I would strongly encourage you to check out as much as you can.
The one other thing I'll mention on comfort is many years, the week of Balloon Fiesta is the first cold week in Albuquerque. We're not talking like, -14 or anything for you folks who are from up north and will laugh at our version of cold, but it is chilly. And if you do opt to take a chair and just hang out in a spot, that means not only is it cold, you're just sitting there in one spot, not moving a lot. The balloons are far enough away that you're not getting the heat from their flames. So dress in layers, right? Could be cool in the morning. Blankets actually are allowed. So you can just like snuggle up in a chair and a blanket. Dress in layers because it might start cool and you might be sitting there with your hot cocoa you got from a vendor. But once the sun comes up, it usually heats up very rapidly. So it'll go from, say 50s to like 75 in like an hour. It could.
Yeah. And the event allows at least each individual can bring a backpack.
That's right. It'll be searched.
Yeah, it'll be checked. But if you've worn layers, you don't want to just be carrying around your layers in your hands, trying to like walk around and check everything out. So a comfortable backpack, I think, would be a good. We didn't bring one last year.
No, we'll talk about this later. It was hot last year, like so warm. There are certain weather phenomena that have to happen for this balloon situation to work. And it was so warm, they almost couldn't take off some days because it was too warm. So that was a little bit of an anomaly. It was not cold in the mornings, but we'll just plan and say most years it's going to be cool in the mornings.
Yeah. It takes like 2 hours for mass ascension. So this is one of the really cool events, as it were, at Balloon Fiesta. And basically, it's where a large number of the balloons, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority of the balloons sort of take off in sections along the field. And this is done really early, like right as the sun is, am I remembering correctly? Yeah, like right as the sun is peeking up over the mountain. So like this is where the folding chairs are really nice, blankets until it warms up, or if it warms up. This has been going on for a while, right? So I think when we were looking at it, so what is it? Started back in 1972.
Yep.
With 13 balloons. It's an unlucky number, but
it seemed to have been a lucky number.
Still going. So I don't know. But now it is the largest balloon event in the world, which is really cool. They've had more than 500 balloons. Of which like 100 of them or so?
Over 100.
Over 100 are what they sort of designate like special ships or something.
Shapes.
Like shapes. That's what it was. Special shapes. Let's see. We talked about food. We talked about, you're going to be walking around a lot. Stay hydrated. The restrooms though. Let's talk about the restrooms for a minute. They're all sort of on one side, so back sort of behind where the vendors are, if I'm remembering all the details correctly. And there's a couple that are just sort of sprinkled around. There's more, they're in like kind of big groups. But one of the problems that we ran into is, despite their best efforts, they had run out of toilet paper. So there was a restroom, but there was no toilet paper, which, for me, I just needed to pee, so I wasn't too bad. But for Sherry, others, if you've got to, go number 2, it's got to be more serious sit down.
I don't recommend this. I just remain a dehydrated husk most of my life. Then you just don't have to pee in public. Not recommended.
And definitely not for this event. So you may want to bring like some wipes or something. The disposable wipes that you can, that are like individual use or something like that, just in case. And then the other thing is some hand sanitizer for like while you're wandering around. Okay, so we talked about the winds in Albuquerque, the bad parts, but what we didn't talk about is the wind patterns and the good parts of the wind.
That's correct. So Albuquerque is the home of, as we mentioned, the largest balloon fiesta in the world. Not just balloon fiesta, but balloon event in the world. And there's a reason for that. So Albuquerque, thanks to its mountains and its valleys, I'm not a meteorologist. I'm also not a balloon pilot or any sort of pilot. But there is this really unique weather phenomenon, wind phenomenon specifically, that happens during October at Balloon Fiesta. And other times of the year, I believe, as well. But I
think it's year-round.
Is it year-round?
I think it's year-round, but I do think you're right. I think that there is a specific time of year where the winds are more prevalent in this pattern.
So I'm going to do my best to explain it as not an expert in any of these things. So Albuquerque gets this wind phenomenon known as the box. So what that really means is that the balloons can take off, and at one altitude, the wind will be blowing one direction. They can change to a different altitude, and the wind will be blowing perpendicular to that. They can change to another altitude, and it'll be blowing back the direction they came from, and change to another altitude, and then once again turn perpendicular to that. Essentially go in a big square, and then land back really close to, if not exactly, where they took off from.
I think some of the winds go the other direction too. Like, I think that's why it's a box.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like Sherry was saying, for the box, At some altitude, it goes, north. At another altitude, it goes south. And then same thing, different altitudes, you'll get east or west. I think there's also a little bit of a timing component to that.
For sure. Yeah.
Of like, depending on what time of day it is. And so like when the balloonists do like a long trip with for the tours and stuff, like you can see them changing altitudes and things like that, and that's why.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's very unique, and it gives some like amazing views, especially when at one time in the morning you saw hundreds of balloons take off in one direction, and then you look out a couple hours later and they're all going a totally different direction. It's just not something you can see at any other location in the world.
Yeah, and I would say like, we're not experts, obviously, but you should chat with one of the pilots.
Yes.
Because I bet they're going to know a lot more. We didn't do that last time we were out there, but
we were trying to stay out of the way and not get abused by any balloons. So speaking of Albuquerque, a couple more unique things about Albuquerque. If you have not spent a lot of time at high altitude in preparation for your visit to Balloon Fiesta, there are a few things that you should take into account. One, Albuquerque is very high elevation, so it is above a mile at most, if not all, places in the city. Two, it is a desert climate, which means most of the time it's dry. So between those two things, you really, really, really need to focus on hydration. I recommend water. I recommend electrolytes even. If you don't focus on that, and sometimes, quite frankly, even if you do, your time can get ruined because you'll end up with what's called altitude sickness, which for some people is just sort of a mild, annoying, nagging headache. For other people, it's very serious headaches, can't think thanks to the headache, and also severe nausea. You don't want to have your time in Albuquerque ruined by either of those things. So really, really, really make sure you hydrate properly. The other thing, because it's high elevation, you are literally closer to the sun. So sunscreen, you're going to be spending hours outside, both on the field or exploring the rest of what Albuquerque has to offer. So make sure that you have sunscreen and make sure that you are well hydrated.
Yeah. Or, if you prefer hats, like a wide brim hat, things like that, just to reduce the amount of sun that you're taking in. It's not quite like the field is not quite like a beach or the water, right? So you're not probably getting quite as much reflection, but I would still encourage sunblock and hats just to keep the sun out of your eyes and those kinds of things.
So while you're spending time at the field at Balloon Fiesta, you do not want to miss the vendors. A few things. It's this huge, long row of vendors. Like they're all in one spot. Essentially, you can just keep walking until you hit the end of it.
It's almost the entire length of the field.
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
long direction of the field.
That's right, the long direction.
Yeah.
So a few tips and tricks with this. There are some vendors that are repeated and there's like little quadrants, and there's some where you'll see them over and over and over. Don't think just because you see that there aren't new vendors if you go further down. There are some that only have one setup. They're a much smaller group, right? They have like one amazing thing, and they might only be towards the end of the field. So a couple things that we fell in love with the last time we were there, so hopefully they will be back again this year. One is fry bread breakfast tacos. These were amazing. One, just because they're really good and this group did a great job of making them. Secondly, you got up at 4:30 in the morning to make it over to Balloon Fiesta. I'm certainly not going to cook breakfast before I do that. So it's nice once you get over there to then go hunt down your breakfast coffee, your breakfast food. Albuquerque is famous for burritos, 100%. So if you see burritos, sure, feel free to get those. But if you want something a little more unique, I highly recommend the breakfast fry bread taco. The other thing that we ran into, well, I guess I'll back up and say, most of this food is not healthy, but it is very tasty.
I don't think there's any healthy food.
There may not be. There's like some tomatoes on a taco. That counts, right? No. These little teeny tiny donuts. I mean, seriously, maybe like a little bigger than a quarter. And they're making them on a machine, like literally right at the vendor.
$1.50.
They're so cute. They're so cute, and they're little bitty, and they're super warm because they literally just got cooked. So are they a healthy breakfast? No. Are they super great when you're cold and you want to be warm and you already tried coffee and that wasn't enough? Absolutely, they are.
Split a small bag with a friend.
Yeah. Super good, super sweet. Those are like literally my top two Balloon Fiesta food recommendations.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention, of course, there's food, beverages. That's really like our thing. We really like that.
But you didn't talk about so you can. I think they let you bring drinks in.
They claim that they do. You can't sell. You'll get in big trouble
Yeah.
for that. But if you need to like bring in a water, they'll usually
Yeah.
allow that.
But what I wanted to call out is it is early, and you did not mention. But yes, they do have coffee for those of us that need that extra kick in the morning. I don't personally prefer coffee. It sort of upsets my stomach. I tend to love chai lattes, those kinds of things. To that same discussion that there's only some like vendors, all of the coffee shops basically seem like they were one big coffee shop. However, the espresso machines were only at one location. So for me, I had to go to that specific location to go and find a chai latte. So I just call that out.
No, it's a good call. Good call. So in addition to food, of course, what else do you need if you're at a big fancy fiesta? Souvenirs. On that same row, kind of intermixed with all of the food and drink vendors, there are, of course, tons of souvenir shops. Each year, we're not big souvenir people, but other people tell me. So if I'm wrong, tell us in the comments. That every year there is a year-specific Balloon Fiesta jacket and also a year-specific Balloon Fiesta pin. So it's a really big deal for some folks, especially those who try to come to the Fiesta every single year, to try to get one or both of those specifically for that year. So I think that's just kind of a fun thing, especially the pins, because they're small, right? And you can kind of collect those and they don't take up a ton of space in your closet. But there's gifts made by local artisans. There's lots of interesting cultural, I don't even know how to describe them, just like beautiful art and interesting things that you're not going to see at a lot of other areas of the country. It's not what you would see at like a fair, right? It's a lot more local to Albuquerque, the Southwest. It's not like all made in China. I'm sure some of it is. But
I mean, we didn't check the tags for everyone.
That's true. But there are some more unique finds.
And that reminded me, it's not something I'm personally into, but you mentioned the pin. They did actually like groups of folks were getting together to trade pins and things like that. I remember hearing about that because they were talking about that over the intercom, so the loudspeaker system that they had there.
Yeah, that's a good call. I did forget about that. Yeah, so it's a big deal for some folks. So if that's the thing you're into, make sure that you do not miss some of those tents that are selling those items.
Yeah. We've probably belabored it a bit. Albuquerque during Balloon Fiesta, there's just tons of folks. Have a meeting place in case you get separated. Sure, like you can use your phones to get back in touch with one another. You can text each other, which is probably better than calling. But there's a lot of people all in one location. And while cell reception and cell communication was there, we definitely had some problems while we were out there. And so I would say texts work a little bit better.
And in another way, it's a lot like a concert, right? You go to a big concert and your phone just doesn't have enough service because the cellular network is overloaded because there's so many people in one place. That's exactly what's happening here. Yeah. So especially like first thing in the morning with all of the morning events, and on the weekends in particular in the evenings, the evening events, that's when you have the greatest chance of maybe a text message even taking like a while to get through, which is why it's so important to have, if you're with a group, a meeting place, if you can't reach each other digitally, to actually go and find each other in person.
Yeah, last year we were with a group and we were trying to like get food and hit the restrooms and a couple of other things. And so we were trying to communicate messages back and forth, and some of them got through, some of them didn't. I got one message that Sherry didn't get. It was really weird. There was a lot of weird things. Animals.
Before we move on to animals, okay. One other thing to mention, because it is such a beautiful, highly photographed, highly videoed experience at Balloon Fiesta, some folks think they're going to be able to go there and live stream over the cell network. I do not recommend trying that. Capture all your footage, go back to your RV or your hotel room and upload it later. Otherwise, you're going to be uploading in serious potato quality, because like we said, sometimes text messages don't even go through. Unless you're carting around a mobile Starlink or similar on your back, don't expect to be able to live stream or FaceTime or do any of those high bandwidth applications while you're out on the field reliably.
Yeah, I mean, you can FaceTime with family real quick, see how it works out if you really just are into that kind of thing. But I wouldn't be betting on it. That's what I would say. So animals, right? No pets are allowed on the field. Obviously, service animals would be allowed, those kinds of things. And we saw some animals that, maybe weren't service animals, but in general case, they're not supposed to be allowed. So I would encourage you to just, find a nice home for them. If you're visiting Albuquerque from far away, leave them at home. If you're bringing an RV, make sure that, and we're going to get a little bit more into the RV piece of it in a minute. We're trying to think about stuff that's like nearby, right? Like, so we stayed in an RV at the park. Again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But there's not a ton of stuff up where the park is.
A lot of parking lots.
Lots of parking lots. But there is some stuff close. You probably would drive most of it. You might walk if you're particularly adventurous. But if you wanted to like walk between the field and one of the RV parks, which one was that?
South Lot.
South Lot. Walking along that area, it's a long walk. I don't know. I say it's a long walk. It's maybe a half mile to the gate?
Maybe. And it was really close to where they had the glamping tents set up last year as well.
Yeah. The glamping.
So we didn't mention that, but their glamping is an option. I'm going to be honest, quick side tangent, it did not look that glamorous.
But we don't usually glamp. We haven't done the glamping.
No.
The one thing we were going to do got canceled years ago.
So.
But along that path and just outside of the park is the Balloon Museum. Free during Balloon Fiesta. I don't know if it's every day or just some days. Look into that. But we were able to get into the museum free of charge. And we walked around a little bit, but honestly, we probably should spend a little bit more time now that we know that it's free. Or even if it was paid, we wanted to go check it out. But what was cool is they had a little coffee shop there too, which did not seem affiliated with the rest of the coffee facilities for the event. And then there's a little bit of food too. Yeah, there's a little bit of food.
It was like out back. There was like 2 trailers. One was like a coffee trailer, and I think the other was a food trailer.
Some sort of food truck.
Yeah, so it was like they had brought in food trucks to put in this like really nice area that they have out back.
Yeah. And then there was also seats.
Yeah.
And we just got lucky. There was a balloon, let's say desperately landing, so that they didn't run into the building, as we were coming in. So there's like a field out back, that you can kind of see. And yeah, this balloonist was coming in, moving really fast, but he managed to land it safely, and I don't think nobody was hurt or anything like that.
That's sort of evidence to how large this area they have back there is it was big enough for a balloon to land in.
Yeah, and it didn't hit any of the seats or anything. Yeah, right. There's plenty of room.
And I guess that's a really good comment, and we didn't add it to our list. So something I just thought about is, right, there are a lot of balloonists in Albuquerque for Balloon Fiesta. They're not all super familiar with the area. Sometimes stuff just happens and they need to land immediately. Sometimes that is in the middle of a road. Sometimes that is in like what do you call circles at the interstate? Like a cloverleaf intersection.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Like the median, the median areas.
It might be in a median. It might be somewhere crazy. At all costs, please try to stay out of their way. If they're coming down somewhere crazy, there is a reason for it. They are experienced, they know what they're doing, and they're trying to do the safest thing at that moment. They may be trying to avoid power lines. They may have been told there's actually, there's a military base on the south end of Albuquerque. They may be getting too close to the military base. It's a big no-no for them to land on that military base or get even like too close to it, I think. So if you see a balloon trying to land, whether you're in a car, you might be 40 miles away from the park, just try to get out of their way and give them as much room as they need to do whatever maneuver they're trying to do. And if it looks like something has gone wrong, if you happen to be experienced in like first aid or any of those things, like go help those folks if something has gone wrong. It's sad to say, most years there's at least one incident with a balloon. And if you can be the person that helps them, like good on you. That's a great thing for you to try to do.
Yeah. So let's see. We talked about the RV, or we alluded to that we have some RV tips. So we should probably talk about that.
Yeah. So last year was the first year that we've done Balloon Fiesta staying in an RV. And we try to do a lot of research, but I feel like we still learn some things. Maybe the hard way that we weren't quite well enough prepared for. So to give just like a little bit of background on our RV, there's actually a walkthrough on the channel if you want to go check that out. But we have like a 28-ish foot Winnebago travel trailer. We have some lithium batteries that have been added to that setup. So we can actually run the AC completely off the grid for, what do you think, like 3 hours, I think we decided?
If we drain them.
Yeah, if we drain them lower than you should.
No. I'm
Not recently?
Yeah, I've been paying it and fine. You want to make sure you have enough battery for like the fridge and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
We have solar on top, and we had purchased 3 sets of solar panels as well. So our goal last year, knowing that where we were going to park did not have hookups, was to live off of solar. So to give a little background on that, there are a number of lots at Balloon Fiesta. Those registration for those lots opens in February approximately of each year, and it is a big deal. Let me tell you, number one, they are not cheap. They know what they have. It's a dirt lot. And it's expensive because
surprising.
When you get in that queue, if you've never done this before and you're trying to get an RV spot, the website will fall over. The queue will be full. Before you get in, you can't even get a spot because they're all immediately sold out. It's actually relatively challenging to get one of these spots. So I recommend, if you're trying to get a spot, number one, get all your friends and family on that website the minute that it's going to open and be in constant communication, like multi-way phone call to know if anyone gets through and manages to reserve that site for you.
Well, and to that point, if folks are interested in that, we can even do a separate video just on that. But like one key thing is just because you bought and paid for the site, you can still transfer it to somebody else. Right, like that's one of the key things.
Now don't be a jerk. Don't get like 10 sites and try to sell them on eBay. That's not nice. But if you're trying to get like one site for your RV, just know it's like really high demand. It helps to have friends and family trying to help you with that process, especially if they want to come stay with you, so they don't have to sit in 2 hours of traffic. So why are these sites so in demand? A huge amount of it is because of the traffic. All of these RV lots are close enough that you can walk to Balloon Fiesta.
It's a long walk.
It is a long walk from some of them. So if you're not like super physically capable, or you're not used to walking long distances, especially at high elevation, they run buses from any of the lots that are further away. And I guess I should clarify, they call them buses. Sometimes it's literally trailers attached to a tractor. Pretty much if it can load, 20 or more people in the city of Albuquerque, it's probably going to be at Balloon Fiesta making laps, trying to get people where they need to be, both from parking lots. I should have mentioned that earlier. They run them from the parking lots as well, and the RV lots.
Yeah, there's dedicated, some of them are dedicated for the RV lots.
That's right. Yeah, so you don't necessarily, if you're in the RV lots, you don't have to wait on the bus that already filled up at the parking lot, for example.
Yeah.
So back to the RV sites. The vast majority of RV sites at Balloon Fiesta do not have power, they do not have water, and they do not have sewer. So that was a little bit of our mistake. We knew that going in, and most years it's quite cool at Balloon Fiesta. So we thought with our fancy batteries and all of our extra solar that we would be able to get through the day and it would be fine.
Well, and we figured it would be fine because we'd just be running the heater and running off the propane. And so, 4 or 5 days, forget the exact number of days that we did it, but 4 or 5 days, the 2 tanks of propane, I got plenty. I can run the heat, run the stove, whatever we need, right?
We were wrong because it was hot. So that was a little bit of a failure for us. Luckily, we have a friend who lives in Albuquerque. We have some battery packs. Friend had some battery packs. So between all of us, there was literally, we had like a whole thing going of like our friend coming, taking all the battery packs, taking them to home, getting them charged, bringing them back so that we could keep the trailer at a reasonable temperature. The animals would be happy. We could have avoided all this had we had a generator.
Well, and we could have avoided it had we not brought the dogs.
That's true also, right? Because that was our biggest concern. We did not want the dogs. We have a cat also, and our cat to get too hot being in the trailer. So like, would we be hot and uncomfortable? Yes. Would we have died? No, it wasn't that hot. But man, would our animals have been pitiful. So huge shout out to our friend who is helping us with this whole battery charging shenanigans just because we don't own a generator. Maybe we'll fix that in the future. But that's an important thing to think about, right? That's why we tell that story, is we talk about how it can be really cold most mornings, and that's how it usually is most years. Temperatures can be all the way from freezing to last year, it was pretty much in the 80s most of the time, right? So if you're coming in your RV, you probably want a few things. One, you want to be prepared for all weather scenarios. Make sure you have adequate heat, but also have a way that you can adequately air condition your unit. Two, if you're going to be away from your unit for extended period of time, say at the park, for example, or adventuring around the city, if you have animals that you're going to leave in your RV, you probably want some sort of remote connectivity way to monitor the temperature of that RV to make sure they are okay and it has not gotten too hot or too cold for them. I am a paranoid person. So the setup that we have migrated to, we have a Starlink that we don't use most of the time, but we did use it as a Balloon Fiesta. We also have a cellular hotspot. So we had Starlink set up to be the primary. We had the cellular hotspot set up to be backup. We had that connected to a Wi-Fi router. I know there's like a lot of technical mumbo jumbo for folks who don't do this all the time. We can make a video if you're interested, let us know. Then we had wireless temperature monitors and wireless pet cameras connected to all of that we could check on from the field. We mentioned the cellular at the field's not that great. A lot of times when I tried to pull up the pet camera, I couldn't do it because there wasn't enough bandwidth. But what I could do is get the very low bandwidth temperature readings from our temperature sensor to know that it was still cool enough in the RV for the animals. So we've talked about how there's no power and we had some issues with that. The other thing to consider is most RV lots do not have water or sewer. So you need to come with a full tank, as full as you can get your tanks of water. Safely, right. Now they do have pump trucks. So if you fill up your gray or black tank, you can ask and pay for the truck to come over and they will get you emptied out. We've never done that, so I'm not actually sure how much that costs or how long that process takes. But we saw those trucks making pretty frequent rounds.
Also pay for fresh water.
Yes, that's right. You can pay for fresh water too. I think that is hugely up to you if you choose to do that. I personally am really a stickler for making sure that my water system is very, very sanitary because I want to be able to drink the water in my RV. We sanitize our water system 2 to 3 times a year to make sure that it is clean enough that we can do that. I'm sure the folks who run the water trucks do a fantastic job of making sure that water is potable and safe. It just makes me...
We're just paranoid.
A little nervous. So we choose to show up with our full tanks of water and our freshly sanitized water system. That's not just Albuquerque, that's everywhere. There are some parks we won't hook up to their water either just because we'll see like an obviously broken water fitting, right? And it's like a little sketchy.
I would say we try our best to not have to hook up at any park unless we have to.
Right.
Like eventually you just run out.
Right. Yeah. Eventually you have to. But just keep that in mind that you need to bring all the water you need to drink or cook or shower.
Or be willing to purchase.
Or be willing to purchase it from the water trucks. Also, there are no extra bathroom facilities in the RV parks. We saw one building in the south lot that looked like it was bathrooms, but we figured out it was for like people working there, not for like the general, working in the lots, not for the general folks staying in their RVs. So unlike most like campgrounds, there's no like centralized restroom area you can go to. So you're going to be using the restroom in your RV. You're going to be showering in your RV.
I thought there were a couple of porta potties.
There might have been. They were real few.
They're not convenient.
Yeah, and you're not going to like go get a shower.
Yeah, definitely not.
So be prepared for that. Have plans.
You mentioned generators.
Yeah.
But they do have the quiet hours.
That's true. Yeah. So if I remember correctly, last year quiet hours started at either 9 or 10. So you cannot expect to be able to run a generator all night. So if your RV requires a generator to stay warm, in the evenings, you need to consider how you're going to handle that without a generator. Conversely, if it ends up being one of those really, really hot years, if you need a generator to stay cool overnight, just know you're not going to be able to run it. You will be asked to leave. They are very serious about it. You cannot be running your generator all hours of the night or they will kick you out, which I think is great. People want to sleep. They have to get up really early. No one wants to listen to your generator all
They
night.
want to sleep. And even if you have the quiet ones, it's a bunch of exhaust because you've got folks that may not be running generators with their windows open and now they're sucking in your exhaust while they're trying to sleep. So it's just not ideal. You're kind of, we had plenty of room, but you're kind of packed in there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that fair?
So, well, that's a good thing. We'll talk about that. So the way that most of the lots are packed is rally style parking. So what that means is you arrive, you follow a person on a tractor or on foot or whatever, and they just pick whatever spot is next available, right? So if you are arriving as part of like a group of friends, you need to all arrive at the same time if you want to park next to each other.
And by same time, we literally mean like
the same time
behind them.
Yeah, like when you're going up the road, you need to be in a line because you cannot save a spot for a friend. You cannot like park your car next to it and think they're not going to park something there. No, like you all need to arrive there at the same time so that you can all get parked
together. But they are
together.
nice enough. Like when you go chat with them, say, hey, like the three of us
Right.
would love to be close to one another or something like that. Right?
Yeah. So that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is the vast majority of the lots are dirt lots. They are not level. They're not like horribly unlevel, but we actually last year ended up on a particularly, we'll show a picture, a particularly unlevel spot. We had to use every single leveling block we own to get level in that spot. So if you have like one of those big fancy motorhomes that auto levels, like you're probably fine. But if you have anything you need to manually level or that doesn't have particularly tall levelers, you should really be prepared and maybe bring extra because this is not like it's not an RV park year round. Like sometimes it just sits full of dirt the rest of the year. Sometimes they'll hold events out in the lots. Like it is very temporary. It is set up just for this event. Bring a lot of levelers or you're going to have a bad time.
And that's mostly just if you want to have more options. When they were parking us, they did ask us.
They did.
They were like,
can you handle this spot?
Can you handle this spot? Like they straight up
we said,
asked us.
I think we can.
And we got out and we're like, yeah, we can probably do this. Turns out we could.
We could, but like really, seriously, barely. So one of the nice things about being in the RV lots, like we said, is you don't have to deal with the traffic. That means your friends probably want to come stay with you at least one night if they're in town, so they don't have to get up so early either. So you can have one extra parking pass. The best way to do that is when you arrive, talk to them and say like, hey, I want to go get the extra parking pass for another vehicle. Where do I go to get that in this particular lot? They might handle it right then if they're not super busy, or they might tell you where you need to walk to once you're parked to then pick up that pass. So that will, what that will allow is for your friends to come visit you. They'll display their parking pass. They'll park. Most places they can't park right next to you. They'll be designated like extra parking areas in those lots, and they can go park in one of those and then come hang out with you in your RV. But that does cost extra money, and you do need to deal with it up front because if you realize at like 10 p.m. that they're going to be there tomorrow, then you're kind of going to be out of luck. So deal with that as soon as you arrive. That way you just go ahead and have it.
Well, and what I think worked well for us is if you're going to have somebody join you, have them come, and I'm going to be maybe a bit aggressive on this, but like have them come lunch the day that they want to see the evening show. So they show up around lunch or shortly thereafter. You go do the evening show so you avoid the horrible traffic leading up to the evening show. They stay with you overnight. And then you go do the morning show. And then sometime, probably a couple hours after the morning show, unless they're in a hurry, then you can leave out. And so like for that, if you've got the parking pass, then they can just come in. You give them a little dot on Google that says, on Google Maps that says this is exactly where my RV is. But if you can go ahead and give them the pass early on, it gives them some flexibility because again, traffic is terrible.
Yep. So a few things. There are a number of lots. We stayed in the South lot last year. Something that is kind of talked about, but I just didn't realize how interesting it was. There's this one little area of the South lot where it's a little too, I'll say, wild to actually park RVs in. But what that means is that's one of the first open areas to the south of the field. And when the balloons take off, almost always, most years, the first direction the wind pushes them is south. So if a balloonist comes up and says, you know what, I just did this for mass ascension and I don't really want to go like super far anywhere else, they will land in that slightly more rugged area of the south lot. So that's really cool. Maybe one day if you happen to be in that lot, or even if you just want to walk over there, if you don't want to go over to the Balloon Fiesta park, you can actually see a number of balloons land in that spot.
Right in the RV park. And it's fenced off.
That's right.
For this purpose.
Or if you get there early enough, you can try to see if you can get parked over by that lot so that you can just sit in the comfort of your RV and watch the balloons come in and land there.
I think the president's lot you can see right there. It's like right there. So you can see
I'd have to look at the map again. Either overlooks
but I don't know
that
if it's like all spots.
or the field.
I don't know if it's all spots though.
So that's an interesting thing. Another thing just to draw a little more attention to, we talked about the buses where you can take the buses from the RV lots and the parking lots over to the Balloon Fiesta Park. Note that when you're trying to come back, not all buses go to all locations. So either ask your driver when you get dropped off where you should go to get picked back up, or if you forget to do that, just make sure when you're leaving, you ask each driver where they're going to make sure that you're getting on a bus that actually goes back to the lot that you're trying to get to, parking or RV.
And they have I think they have little name tags that say what they do. And if you just ask which one it is, the bus drivers were really good about reminding folks when we were there.
Yeah.
But again, when you're driving around at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, earlier,
way earlier,
5 o'clock in the morning, those kinds of things. Not everyone's awake yet, so they're trying. They're trying. This was kind of surprising, I think, to us, is they actually have a TV broadcast. And so it's like a local channel. It's coming from the field. It's available in the RV park. Although I don't like it. It's not like the cable. You don't.
No, it's like over the air, like old school antenna TV. But if you have one of those on your rig, you can pick it up from the RV park.
Yeah. And so you can, it's in the details of that were in the welcome packet.
Yeah.
Talked about pets, but we were talking about pets on the field.
Which you can't have.
Which you should not have unless, again, it's a service animal. But pets are, as you might guess, allowed in the RV area. So there's something I would like to point out, though. We talked about it not being, it's not paved. It's
dirt.
It's dirt, gravel. Maybe gravel is a better way to describe it. It's dirty, dusty. So Albuquerque has sticker plants, and they call them goat heads. I think various places have different names for them. They are extremely painful. So if you've got flip-flops and aren't paying attention, they can poke right through your flip-flops. But more importantly, for your pets, they can poke right through those paws, and they will be very unhappy about it. They need to have sturdy shoes. If they do not have sturdy shoes, they are going to get the goat heads.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I would also say there's other things some of the grasses that'll pop up will also have sort of some stickers. They're not as painful as the goat heads, but you may need one of those combs to get some of the stuff out of your dog's fur if they've picked it up, because that what happens when they roll around on it's a mess. It can be a mess. Let's see. What about the weather?
Yeah, I mean, most years it's pretty dry. We talked about earlier, Albuquerque's had some later rain this year than usual. So there's a chance it could rain. We talked about rain gear, but since these RV lots are mostly dirt, that means they can also get kind of muddy. Not like you're going to get stuck and not be able to get out muddy, but just it's dirt and mud everywhere. So you're going to get muddy. Your dog is going to get muddy. If you take your cat on a walk, they're going to get muddy. Just have a plan, be prepared, know that if it rains, it's going to be muddy, and there's just nothing that can be done to avoid that. Another thing that we didn't mention, so last year we talked about we're kind of on this unlevel spot in the dirt field. The folks behind us had a nice little pop-up, super cute rig. It did not rain last year, which meant it was very dusty. So they had, knowing it was warm last year, right? They had these nice shade covers over they had the pop out sleeping areas on either side. They had these nice shade covers that went over that. They were trying to keep it cool, but it was just so dusty. When we spoke to them a little bit, not only were they super hot inside, because with the pop-ups, it's just a lot harder to keep them cool, but also that dust is just really, it's fine. And so because those pop-out areas have those mesh enclosures and they had to have some airflow or they were just going to roast in there, that dust was getting in too. They honestly did not stay very long at all. I'm pretty sure they left before their site rental was over. because they were just not having a good time. So I would say if you have one of those campers that has those like only mesh areas, or there's certain areas you can't like block off, like think a little extra about how you can prep for either like weather extremes or absurd amounts of dust, to see how you can minimize that inside of your rig so you're not breathing all of that stuff in. Another thing to consider is our rig in particular seems to just like really fill up the air filters really, really fast. So if it's a super dusty year, you might consider like pulling those out and blowing them out, or bringing a replacement set, especially if you're going to be there like early weekend to final weekend. You might just end up with a lot of dust in that system that it's better to not just let it build up and cause you problems, especially if you want your AC to keep working.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe we can talk a little bit about like hotels, Airbnbs, or if you happen to be local and you're watching this. So let's see. I think the biggest, probably most noticeable thing is every restaurant, every brewery, which by the way Albuquerque has a lot, and shop in Albuquerque is just slammed during the event. Let's see. Estimate guesses what? 300,000 plus?
It's hard to tell. So if you look on Balloon Fiesta's website, the authoritative source, they actually list it as 800,000 guest visits. We're not sure what that actually means. Our guess is that means like 800,000 tickets sold.
Yeah.
But right, most people are going to go multiple days. So that doesn't mean there's literally 800,000 people descending on behind Albuquerque, but there are a lot.
Yeah. And many people should show up multiple days, because again, you might not get to see it.
And compare that to what's the population of Albuquerque?
I think we were looking at the census records from like 2024.
Yeah, maybe.
Pretty recent. It's around 550,000. So it's a fairly large city. Or, I don't know, medium large city, however you want. I came from a much smaller town, so it's a big city for me.
What that really means is the population of Albuquerque may be doubling during these events.
Yeah.
So that's why everything is busy during the week of Balloon Fiesta.
Yeah, and then also like Santa Fe is only an hour away.
That's right.
Socorro, south of Albuquerque, some of the other ones, like they're an hour-ish away or so.
So not everyone's going to get out of Albuquerque and go do those things.
Well,
but some people are.
No, what I mean is like the people from those cities
Are also
can also come in. Now, New Mexico has a relatively small population in general, but it still just adds to the numbers, right? If you're watching this video and you haven't booked, you're not coming this year. Unless you happen to know somebody in Albuquerque or somebody that's has a spot in their RV for you. Good luck, because it's going to be packed. The dates for the next 5 years of Balloon Fiestas have already been decided. The hotels and rentals fill up pretty fast during that space. Now, do you have to book it a full year out? Probably not. But if you're looking 3 months out, I think it's going to be very limited.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very limited.
Early. Right. We mentioned the RV sales go on sale in February and they're sold out immediately. If you're waiting much longer than that to book hotels, you've probably made a mistake.
Yeah. So see, Albuquerque is booked as sort of like a fairly high crime city. And I think the numbers back that up, right? The numbers back that up. We've been to Albuquerque and around Albuquerque over the years quite a bit. I would say I've personally never felt unsafe walking around. Maybe there's some times where I paid a little closer attention walking around downtown, and it's like, hey, I might be being followed. But again, never had any problems. But the numbers, there's a lot of property theft and those kinds of
vehicle
things.
theft.
Yeah, well, I think that falls under property. So like all the things that we've heard, and I'm sure we've not heard of everything, is folks leaving valuables visibly out in their vehicles. So I would just encourage you, if it's particularly valuable, leave it at home, leave it in the RV.
Even if it's not valuable, if it looks like it could be valuable.
Yeah, like a shopping bag, right? Like even if it's empty, put it all in the trunk, get it out of the way. And if you can do it, don't make it obvious that you're putting stuff in the trunk. Put the stuff in the trunk before you got there, so that it's not obvious that you've just filled up your trunk with stuff. I think that's fair.
And we should mention, when we were walking around all the areas of Balloon Fiesta, the police actually have a lot of cameras set up in the parking areas. So those are probably, I would say, more well policed and viewed and safe than like the rest of the city during that time.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I mean, it doesn't guarantee that your stuff won't get stolen, so they won't try and break in real quick. But just be aware. Just be aware.
Almost every year, someone's balloon trailer gets stolen. Every year, I feel like you hear at least one. Yeah, at least one story. Almost always, I'm not gonna say every time, that trailer was not either locked to the tow vehicle or the trailer was left disconnected from the tow vehicle without a hitch lock on it. So again, I'm sure there are cases where it has been locked and they somehow cut the lock off, but the vast majority of cases, the trailer was left unsecured. So again, like Brian said, make sure your valuables are not visible in your car. Things that look like they could be valuable are not visible. But if you're pulling a trailer for any reason, or like your RV even, make sure that it is either locked to the tow vehicle or it is hitch locked so that someone can't just like roll up there and steal it in 5 seconds. They're going to have to make a bigger commotion if they want to steal it.
Yeah, and I would also say, like, not some folks forget about this when they're locking up their hitches, and we have hitch locks for our RV. Unfortunately, there's not like a super great way to lock up our chains right now, but this is actually something that's worth mentioning, and that is if you're able to lock up your chains as well, because especially for like the smaller trailers. And technically, the big ones should also work. Like, those chains are strong enough to tow.
Right. That's the point.
Well, they're safety chains. So I haven't heard about that in Albuquerque specifically. Sure, it probably has happened, but somebody can steal the vehicle just by using the chains to get it out. Right. So, if you're able to wrap them around, lock them to each other, make it a little harder for somebody to just, grab your stuff and make a run for it. Again, we left our RV there in the South Lot multiple times.
Yeah.
To go around,
especially because it was hot.
Go do other stuff. We left the power on so the animals weren't overheating in the RV, and we have the ability to double check that. But we didn't have any trouble. And I didn't hear about any of the RVs or anything like that, like wandering off on their own.
No, yeah, I've never heard of any trouble at Balloon Fiesta itself. It's usually like at hotels, particularly towards the outskirts, maybe like slightly sketchier hotels that people ended up in because they didn't book early enough and that was the only hotel left. So just be cognizant of those tips. So
around town stuff.
Yeah, around town stuff. So we talked about lots of people, tons of people in the city, in a city that's not used to having that many people except for this one time a year. Budget extra time for crowds, budget extra time for transit. If you can make reservations at places you plan on going to, if you can buy, like if it's an event, if you can buy tickets beforehand, highly recommended, especially during Balloon Fiesta week, so you don't get there and have to stand in another line in addition to the line you stood in to get into Balloon Fiesta. Albuquerque is pretty well known for their breweries and also for their restaurants. So the big thing, Albuquerque's in New Mexico, is New Mexican food. If you go out anywhere, at some point, if you're visiting Balloon Fiesta, you really should go to a New Mexican restaurant. But when you order that dish, they're going to ask you red or green. And you're going to stare at them like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? They're asking you what sort of chili you want on your food. So
and we don't mean like chili like beans.
No, we mean like chili peppers. Hatch is in New Mexico. Hatch chilies are world-renowned and are very popular as part of New Mexican cuisine.
Yeah.
Green is the chili when it's not all the way ripe, still plenty hot. Red is the chili after it has ripened a little more. If you ever grown bell peppers, right, it's very similar. They start off green, they kind of turn yellow, then they turn red, right? That's the process that chilies on New Mexican food go through as well. There's 3 answers to that question when they say red or green. Sounds like there should be 2. There's really 3. There's red, if that's what you want. Usually has like a little bit of, I'll say, a smokier, also tends to be hotter most of the year. Green, usually a little less smoky, but also plenty hot, but maybe not as hot as the red. Or Christmas. Christmas means you want both. Also a completely valid answer.
Yeah. And you mentioned that like red can be hotter and some other stuff, but I would actually say from my time in Albuquerque, the thing that you should do if spice is a concern, there's two things you should do. One, let's say you want it to be spicy, or maybe you don't want it to be as spicy. Ask the place that you're at. They usually know whether the red or the green is hotter right now. The other thing that I would say is if you say you don't want any, sometimes it'll still end up on your food.
It's like they don't understand that answer. You're like, I don't want any. And they're like, I'm sorry, why are you at this restaurant? Right. And it will, like, your order will get messed up. So
Yeah. So like what I would say is ask for it on the side. And if you've never had it before and you want to try it, same thing. Ask for it on the side. And, Christmas. Could you do Christmas on the side? Is perfectly valid. They totally understand that. They understand that not everybody wants their food just completely drenched, but not having it at all, that does seem to be confusion. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say that when we've eaten out and those kinds of things that folks haven't, or folks have said that and have always gotten it. That's not the case. But if you want to be safe, that's usually the way that I would personally do it. There's lots of options around Albuquerque to do other than just food and the balloon festival. So Albuquerque has one of the world's longest single cable tram. It's not the longest tram in the world. That's really what I want to get across. It is a spectacular tram that goes from the foothills of the Sandias in Albuquerque all the way up pretty close to the peak and back down. And so you can go and get tickets, and you can get them one way, you can get them both ways.
And you might ask, why in the world would you get a one-way ticket? If you're particularly adventurous, what a lot of people will do is they will hike from the bottom of the mountain to the top and then take the tram down.
Yeah, or the opposite.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite. Though, just depends on what you're feeling. So that's definitely an option. There's an area of Albuquerque. Santa Fe has a similar area. There's probably other places too,
Yeah.
like the Old Town. So it's like sort of like a historical district in Albuquerque. There's a rattlesnake museum there, which is a lot of fun. It's really cool. They are all behind glass, so they're not going to hop back out at you.
Well, we should caveat that.
Well.
Sometimes they'll have a couple out front in this big pit area. Not always, but I would guess if they're going to have them out there, it would be during Balloon Fiesta, weekend time.
Could be
to draw people in.
I think one of the folks that owned it actually had a snake around.
Yeah.
I think it may.
So if you have a snake phobia, this is not your place.
No. The other thing is, we mentioned this earlier. Santa Fe is an hour-ish away. There's lots of things to do in Santa Fe as well. They have their own Old Town, though they don't have a rattlesnake museum. If you want to go a little further, there's a couple of interesting sort of unique places around Albuquerque. So one of them is El Malpais. I'm sure I am slaughtering that name. Forgive me. But it is west of Albuquerque, west and a little south of Albuquerque. Yeah. An hour or two?
Yeah, probably.
Somewhere in there. Do some research. It means the Badlands. I don't know what language that is.
Spanish,
yeah. The Badlands, and it is millennia old lava flows. And so we've gone and done some hikes out there. Maybe we'll do a video.
Maybe sometime.
I don't know if we have any footage for that, but it's a really unique space.
And Balloon Fiesta time of year is a great time to do it because you mentioned it's lava flows. That means the ground is black and hot, but it's usually Albuquerque. October is a cooler time of year, so that's a really great time to go experience that.
And you can do that in the middle of the day.
Right.
You have time that after the events in the morning, you could go do that and then come back and still hit the events in the evening.
Yeah.
There's not, you need to bring food. and water.
Lots of water.
If you're going out there, you can drive through sort of the area where Alamo Pace is. There are some roads that are not traversable unless you have a lifted truck or some other stuff. If it's been raining, don't. Just don't.
Yeah. Unless you're like an avid four-wheel driver and, that's the vehicle you brought.
If you come prepared for all things, then that's certainly an option. Let's see. In a different direction, I think it's south of Albuquerque.
Yes.
Is the VLA,
which we've never done.
We've never done.
But we hear it's really cool.
The Very Large Array. So this is this massive array of radio antennas, I believe.
I think that's right.
Again, we haven't done it. Correct us if we're wrong. Massive array of radio antennas pointed at space, collecting data, those kinds of things. And there's a way to visit it. Let's see. In Albuquerque, so much closer. That one's a little further away. Much closer. Also on the west, or on not also, but on the west side of Albuquerque, is the Petroglyph National Monument. So this is not as far away as like the Badlands, Alamo Pace that I mentioned. This is within the city limits-ish of Albuquerque. And basically it's this area that you can walk around that you can actually see historical artwork that's been carved or otherwise put on the rocks and faces out there.
Yeah.
What would you want to add to that?
Well, I would say one thing that's nice. So we talked about Malpais. That's like a little more serious hiking. Petroglyphs is very easy. It's practically flat, especially if you stay in the bottom trail, and it's very well marked.
And if you brought comfortable shoes, like we mentioned for the event, it'll work just fine.
Yeah, you don't need hiking shoes, right? It's mostly a sandy-ish trail. It's like a really nice little walk to go see some really interesting carvings.
Yeah, famous Route 66 is in Albuquerque. Fun fact, Central is sort of the main area that folks associate with Route 66. The Indian Pueblo Cultural Center that you can go check out. There's a lot of details about the Native American population out here, of which we have numerous tribes.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty...
and they have some really interesting art. And I don't know if it's open all the time, but they also have a restaurant that serves a lot of really interesting dishes that honestly you can't find at most other places in town. Except if you're flying into Albuquerque for the Balloon Fiesta, they actually just opened a restaurant in the Albuquerque airport. So if you miss it in town and you just want to try something on maybe the way out of town, since you're going to be waiting in the airport for your flight to take off, you could go check out the food from there in the airport if you miss it.
And you've eaten that.
I have.
What it's like?
So what I got was actually pretty New Mexican. I was just in a hurry and just got enchiladas.
Okay.
So I know.
But I mean, at this point, I would say, if you have questions, let us know. We'll be happy to try and answer as quickly as we can before the event so that you can, maybe Amazon overnight that last thing that's going to make your stay more enjoyable if you're in an RV or in a hotel for that matter. If you have questions about food, we have been out there and we know folks out there, so we can make some recommendations if you're looking for that. But I would say TripAdvisor and some of the other stuff, they've got good recommendations. You'll be able to find some stuff. But you were gonna
a couple other things just to throw out there. If you're really into movies or TV shows, there's a ton of Breaking Bad tourism related things. If that's your thing, check that out. If you're into that, there's a lot of tours. They'll either do, just Breaking Bad specific stuff or a bunch of the film and movie industry stuff all over town. They'll take you and show you all of the cool things that have happened in different locations. So that can be kind of an interesting thing to do where you're not just walking around either. You're riding with them in their bus, for example. Yeah. One other thing I realized wasn't on our list, but I wanted to mention, when I was flying into Albuquerque one time, I heard some folks talking about how they had gotten this beautiful Airbnb out in some area east of Albuquerque, and they were so excited. It was a dozen of them. They were all going to go stay in this big old house, and they were talking about how they were going to catch an Uber to get into town. That is not recommended. If you're in the city of Albuquerque, yeah, you can Uber, Lyft. There's some taxis, not a lot. If you're staying somewhere out, there is not going to be an Uber. There is not going to be a taxi. You might be able to convince one of the taxi companies to come get you, but expect to pay a not insignificant amount of money. So I recommend if you're staying somewhere significantly outside of the city, get a rental car.
Yeah.
rental cars also sell out very early. We have a friend actually who worked at one of the rental car companies in Albuquerque over a season during a balloon fiesta. And he was talking about how they bring in essentially like practically every car in the state of New Mexico goes to Albuquerque the week of Balloon Fiesta, and it is still not enough.
And it still sells.
So in addition to booking your hotels early and your flights early and your RV lot early, if you're going to get a rental car, book your rental car early as well. And don't rely on Uber and Lyfts if you're significantly outside of the city.
Yeah. I think I've already mentioned it a few times. Questions, add it to the comments. We'll try and get to them as quickly as possible. Bear with us. And then I'd say if you can't make it, plan for next year. If you're planning for next year, watch Balloon Fiesta live on the live stream, right? And you can get a feel for at least that aspect of it. All right. Well, thanks for watching.